I feel sick, therefore I need an ailment for my sickness. If you don't fit that mold, or if you don't see yourself in those people, walking in can be extremely intimidating. I am a different human being if I get anything less than 8 hours.
Welcome to the Restorative Force podcast, where we believe that it should feel good to be human. Modern life is fast-paced and often unforgiving. It stresses our minds, bodies, and the planet more than it needs to. So through conversations and ideas, our aim is to uncover the roadmap for shifting unsustainable cultures at pace for both personal and planetary well-being. So take a deep breath and join me, Hannah Pang, as we explore the path towards restoration and regeneration for ourselves and the world around us. All right, hi everyone. Welcome back to the Restorative Force podcast. My name's Hannah Pang, and I'm here today with India Bailey, who is a fellow Vancouverite and is an athlete turned London-based coach. She's a global trainer for Techno Gym, the wellness editor for CircleZeroEight magazine, a DJ, and founder of Play Events. So from coaching sessions to curated events, she's on a mission to bring new energy and concepts to the city's calendar and wellness scene. India, welcome. Thanks for being here with me.
Thank you for having me. Try saying that twice as fast.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning, back in your Vancouver days. Tell us about your journey from growing up as an athlete to now becoming quite a well-known fitness and wellness expert.
Yeah. I mean, my upbringing was a little bit discombobulated in the sense that my mom had this really bright idea to take us to Mexico when I was mere 5 years old. And of course, I had my best friend down the road. You know, I was definitely uprooted, and she's the boss. So, like, we were doing what my mom wanted to do. My dad was a pilot at the time, so he had a little bit of, like, flexibility with where we were living. But we went to Mexico, not just, like, we didn't go to Cabo. We didn't go to Mexico City. We found Cuernavaca. Try saying that. It ended up being 5 years. So she put me in a French immersion school. Didn't speak French, didn't speak Spanish, showed up with my little Mulan lunchbox. And I was like, what would Mulan do? What would Mulan do? And I was like, okay, we're going to have to learn this language as fast as possible, or you're going to have no friends, essentially. We ended up staying 5 years, and then we were so immersed in, you know, the culture there, the language, the people. We had such a great generation of people. So then it was time to finally go back to Vancouver. We came home, and it was again a bit of a cultural shock as well. You know,
Totally.
I had experienced something completely different, and coming back to Vancouver, which, as you know, is like picture perfect. There's not much mayhem going on. And when I came back, I think I wanted to express myself a little bit more. So I really got into sports, and that was kind of where I found my sense of like expression, about coming together and making new friends, because I'd been away for so long. So I had to switch from that sort of different language back to Canada. And so, yeah, I kind of picked up everything. I did soccer, field hockey, track and field, downhill ski racing.
Oh, wow.
And so downhill ski racing was definitely one of sort of the top sports that I played, and I played until basically university. And I had a big fall then, and I fractured my pelvis.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of me out. And so
Yeah.
I had to make a decision. Hey, am I going to keep this up, or am I going to go to university? Am I going to, you know, pursue the route that all my peers are taking? And so I went to university, but I really missed that aspect of sport and of sort of sportsmanship and community. And so I started going to the gym a little bit more. I started getting more involved in more like PTing my friends, helping my friends out. And that's kind of where this idea was born about pursuing more of the fitness route. I found Ride Cycle Club in Vancouver.
Yay.
Anybody knows Ride Cycle Club? Julie. And it was just like this moment where I'm like, that is like such an amazing thing to be able to be leading this room. Everybody's in it. The energy's crazy. And so I wanted to move to London, and I had this idea where I really wanted to be a coach. I really wanted to get back into that a little bit more. And on the flip side, I also wanted to explore more of the culture of London, which I love so much. So I'm like, how do I get into being a spin instructor and also getting into the cultural world here in London when I'm coming from Vancouver. So I basically sent a little video out to everyone, and it was the most embarrassing video. I think it's still on YouTube. I think there was like this video of me with a washing machine going around, and I was like, spin. It was like ridiculous. Like I don't even know. I think it's on YouTube, but people loved it.
It sounds quite creative.
Yeah, it was. I got somebody to film it for me. Like I think I ran down like Carnaby Street to a guy walking his bike, and I was like, "Are you gonna walk that bike or ride it?" Like it was a ridiculous video.
My gosh.
Anyway, so I joined Core Collective. I was working at Soho House at the same time, and I was juggling these two worlds of like, we're having martinis on a Wednesday, and we're having this incredible screening, and then party afterwards, Q&A, and then I had to go teach the classes next morning at 6 and 7 a.m. So I feel like I've constantly been juggling these two worlds.
Yes, and they sound, even just on that example, quite opposing worlds, or just, you have to be on all the time. But going back to what you were saying about cycle class, I remember once, this was when I was living in New York, and it was my first time going to Soul Cycle.
Right.
And I swear to God, it was like a spiritual experience. There was just something about it where you get like so in the zone and so connected to like the beat and the music, and everyone's there together, and everyone's like shouting and like cheering each other on. It definitely has that sense of community that I imagine you were also getting from like sports, like growing up as well, and just like super supportive of one another, and like everyone's on this journey together. But yeah, let's like dive into a little bit more about your interest in the culture and art scene too. Like, where do you think that kind of came from or started? Like, was that a part of growing up as well, especially given your kind of multicultural background?
I think so. I think like, because I was in all of these different circumstances growing up, from, you know, going to school in Mexico, then coming back, I felt that there's a sense of, you know, how do I express myself with all of these different things going on, and maybe not having a strong hold on any of those languages because I didn't have enough time to fully immerse myself in them, if you get what I mean. So growing up, we're always trying to find ways to express ourselves and ways to articulate the things that we're feeling, even if they don't necessarily make sense. And I think art, for me, I was always into art. I was never academic. Like, I was never good at that good at school. The biggest bit of feedback that I got was, she has so much potential, but she just won't stop talking. Like, stop distracting your friends. Like, there was this video of me, like, at ballet school, and I was holding all of these girls' hands and, like just talking to them and distracting the entire room.
Always a networker.
ADHD 101. So I think that art was definitely a place where I felt like I feel safe and at home to articulate myself. So that kind of continued for me. That was, like, I guess, my favorite part of school. And I think that with art, there's so many different avenues that you can take to do that, whether that be music, whether that be fine arts, whether that be poetry. So I think that's always held a place in my life and as an outlet, I think, growing up. Now it's definitely more music-based, but I've just always been interested in finding those different avenues. So
yeah, that makes sense. And can you tell us more about kind of when you first really thought of how you were going to bring these two worlds together? It seemed like career-wise, you were kind of had like two parallel paths going on. What were some of the key kind of moments where you were like, oh my gosh, these are overlapping and intersecting, and I need to do something about it?
Yeah. I mean, when I had the role at Soho House and then I was teaching classes, I think I was in this space where I was, in one way, creating experiences for others, but not directly. I was helping to program or curate these experiences, but when I was working there, I had 3 different houses, so I had about 47 events a month, which was crazy. So there's no way I could attend all of them. There's no way I could have a super direct influence on each and every event that I was doing. Of course, I made the final decision whether or not they were going ahead, but I didn't get to experience all of them. And I think on the other side, I'm teaching these classes, these spin classes, and it was my direct influence on creating these experiences. So I realized, okay, my passion is creating experiences for people in different ways, but, you know, sport and fine arts and art and culture are two avenues that I really love, but they seemingly in our day and age exist so differently. So I feel like I've been battling with finding a commonality or a place for these things to intersect in some way. And that's definitely, the cause for me building play and those ideas. I was like, well, why don't I just do it myself?
Yeah, so let's dive in. Tell us more about play.
Yeah, I think so. Play has been on my mind for, I want to say, the past 3 years. I have always, like I just said, finding ways to bring the two worlds that I love so much together. And I felt like for so long I was fighting, like, oh, if I'm in fitness, then there's no way that I can be in like events or in music or in the arts. Like, they're just so different. So I'm like, okay, how do I make this happen? And how can they coexist? And when I joined CircleZeroEight magazine, which highlights sports style and culture, I was like, okay, this makes sense. This is part of what I'm trying to create. Like, let's just go and do it. And so play for me, I think it really speaks to my experience growing up as well. Like, how do I find wonder and discovery in everyday life that's free to, like, I'm free to do that. And I think that kind of replicates a childlike state of wonder and discovery and just pursuing those passions and pursuing those I guess callings in a way that I think oftentimes we lose as we get older. So I wanted to find different ways to express this or to explore these different ideas in the form of events that happen all around London for everybody, and that weren't necessarily super fitnessy or super wellnessy, but more so around the whole idea of how movement and getting inside your body allows yourself to feel more comfortable to explore these different ideas or, whether that be emotional, spiritual, mental wellness, physical wellness, whatever that might be. So yeah, that's kind of where play was born. And now we have 5 different event modalities, I guess, different types. And we've done 7, or we're on our 7th now. So
exciting. Yeah. Can you tell us about the 5 different types of events that you guys put on?
Yeah. So I guess our most popular one is, this one is a women-only event, but it's called Senses and Sensuality. And it has 3 different aspects. So most of the events that we host will target the 5 senses, and then it'll have an element of movement and 1 element of creative arts. So this one has candlelit yin yoga. Don't we love it?
So lush.
And that allows us to really get into our bodies and really feel safe and at home. And of course, the instructor will definitely lead that sort of narrative in getting us to that place. Once we're there, we have a somatic sexologist named Aisha. She's amazing, and she really helps us find our sensuality, and it starts really slow. It's hard to depict when people are like, wait, what is sensual body mapping? Like, is there nudity? I'm like, no, like, we're not having an orgy. Don't worry about it.
Everyone's clothes are on.
Everybody's clothes are on. But we start just kind of with the tips of our fingers, and we start to kind of, to the music, just closing our eyes and feeling what that feels like in our body. I think oftentimes in experiences, we can oftentimes try to feel or figure out what the other person might want and dismiss what we actually want. So it's finding that, okay, I feel like they might want this, and then I have to fit that mold. And so she really allows us to just be in the moment and own our truth and own like what we want. So it's a discovery of sensuality and pleasure, I would say.
And just like getting to know yourself better and like what touch feels like.
Exactly. I'm like, I didn't know this could make, like, by touching my own hair, I didn't know that could make me feel that way, but which was really interesting. And I think having everybody do that at the same time in their own way felt kind of safe. Obviously, Aisha makes us feel very safe and very, at home. But yeah, it was just a really special experience. I think we all felt really liberated after that. And whilst this is all happening, we have a live artist depicting a piece.
Oh, beautiful.
From people's shapes, silhouettes, color, anything that they are feeling, or sort of like as an aura from the experience. They're they're adding to their piece. So that's Senses and Sensuality. We have Free Move, and that explores free movement in different ways. So it can be the integration of dance with yoga, a bit of a fusion, all to beats of a DJ. Then we have a live artist at the end doing a musical performance, which is really cool. And I think a lot of the time people are wary of the Free Move title because they're like, I don't know, I can't dance, or I'm not too sure. But I think with yoga, what we'll start to go into those flows, and each time making it bigger and bigger. So you almost learn a very simple, repetitive routine and allow yourself to exert more energy through every round.
Make it your own each time.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, okay, I know this. Now I can release a little bit. I can allow myself to get deeper into this movement. And I think even through that, it's giving yourself the permission to move and to surrender to this and to, dismiss those potential ideas that come up or thoughts that say, oh, don't, you look so silly, don't do that. Like, that's the whole point of play, is to just give into that and not care. So yeah, that's Free Move. We have Poetry and Pace, which is more of a community-centric event where people come, we'll explore a different neighborhood, and whilst we're doing that, the poet will have taken submissions from all the attendees and made a poem based on those statements or those sentences that people shared, and then he'll make or she'll make a poem based on that, which is really cool. We'll learn how to self-massage, and we'll learn sort of deep stretching techniques, which is perfect after a run. So many. We have, dare I go on? We have Not Your Average Sound Bath, which is spoken word. We have free kind of movement, meditative movement, and bespoke surround sound soundscapes.
So cool.
Usually done by a record label or by an artist, which is really cool. And then we have Cosmic Reset, and that is usually around sort of planetary shifts or new moons or full moons. And those are done with a Vedic astrologist, breath work, and they're a little bit more intimate. So you have these one-on-one experiences. So it's a little bit of everything, and that's the beauty of it. It can be anything. So
yeah, and I can definitely see how you've brought the like movement, fitness, wellness world together with the more like cultural, artistic world as well. And what have you found from putting on these events? Like how, like what has, I guess, like some of the feedback been or the results been of the people who have attended them? I can just see how, even from you just describing them, they would just be so different than like rocking up to a, like, you know, whatever fitness class.
A Pilates class. Yeah. I mean, everybody typically says, oh my gosh, like, how did you come up with these like intersections between these different ideas or these different people? How do you find all the people? I think, you know, it's a muscle that I've been able to flex in the past or exercise in the past when doing so many events in 1 month. So I'm kind of good at putting some links together, I suppose. But there's always learnings every single time, and they're never. We haven't reached perfection yet, but I don't think that is the point of play. Yeah. So it's each one is unique in its own way because two are never fully the same. So, which is great. I think a lot of people come and say, I would have never experienced that otherwise. I don't think I've ever done something like this. So the newness and the creativity of the play events, I think, is something that people tend to enjoy. Yeah. And the community aspect of things, yeah.
And I guess my next question is, like, what do you feel was or is missing from the, like, health and wellness world or the art and culture world that bringing them together provides that they, like, alone aren't currently, like, offering people?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so much in the wellness industry right now. I think my head spins in dizziness over what I see. And, the more the algorithm learns about the things that I'm looking up for play, the more it's like, oh, think about all these different clubs and all these different ideas. And, you know what? I think there's more and more of this. I'd say maybe it's been lacking in the past in traditional fitness senses. In terms of here are the classic classes and this is what we offer. I think more and more the fitness trends that are being forecasted for 2024 is all about hitting multisensory experiences.
Oh, interesting.
Which is great.
Yeah, it works out well.
But yeah, I think they were just released recently in the beginning of February. But it is about harnessing those senses and getting as much from an experience as possible. So why not? Like, that's great. But things like there's a app called Click and there's an app called Locals, and there's these different apps that have a bunch of different events on there that you can go and explore. And I think the offering is definitely there. I think the only thing is trying to find, what you're looking for can be hard amidst the saturation that is the wellness industry these days.
Totally. And I find, even from like being in the wellness space, it's also very overwhelming, like the amount of options that you have and all the things you should be doing. And a thing that I sometimes get sucked into is there's like a million things to do to be well. And now like people's morning routines take like 4 hours.
No,
and
crazy.
It's just, I feel like we are often like playing on people's insecurities as well of like, if you're not doing these things to be well, like you're missing out and are unwell. And I sometimes find that now that pressure is making me and like people unwell.
Totally. Well, it goes beyond what we used to, do. It's like, okay, I feel sick, therefore I need an ailment for my sickness. Now it's like, I don't even know, but I'm a hypochondriac. So like, here are all the things that I need to do to fix myself. But it's almost like you say, it's raising attention on things like, oh, you haven't considered your skin health, or you haven't considered your gut health, or you haven't considered, putting collagen in your smoothie. Like, there's so many different things that are now popping up that I think are taking our attention away from the importance, and it's almost becoming a industry like that prioritizes almost vanity to a degree, and that's sort of what I'm trying to steer clear of, because it can so easily bleed into that. The more we could become self-obsessed, yes, there's an element of this is great that we're all trying to become more well, but I think it's also adding more self-involvement into the process, and it kind of, especially with social media and everything, it's making you more sort of insular,
it's just like
and
so
more
much
self-aware.
pressure.
Totally.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and that's what I love about play is like it's trying to strip all of that back and like reconnect to just like what makes you like happy and human. And when wellness becomes so serious and there's so much stress and pressure that people feel to be well, it makes people unwell.
Yeah.
And the idea of like bringing back play like sounds so simple, but it also feels really challenging in the current kind of like infrastructure that we have.
I think it's hard because I'm trying to hit 2 points of that. I like that the play experiences are, I love the beauty of creating beautiful experiences. So they are aesthetically driven and they are thought out and considered. I don't want them to be like, all right, let's all like roll on the floor and like get crazy. Like, it's not necessarily all of that. People have the liberty to do that if they want to. So it's kind of hitting that mark of people that are in the wellness industry and they appreciate those things, whilst also at the same time letting that all go. So it's this kind of, there's duality to it for sure. But in the wellness industry, I think what I try to do in my life and what I try to do when speaking to my clients or in these events is there's 4 different kinds of wellness, right? So there's like social wellness, spiritual wellness, mental wellness, like emotional wellness and physical wellness. So I'm trying to add those in there without making them super complex. So it's almost just simplifying them in a sense, as much as I'm able to, because the industry is getting to be very difficult to cut through the noise. I mean, what is it, like a 7 billion industry now? Crazy.
Growing.
Yeah.
And how do you bring some of those elements or aspects of play into like other pieces of your life? You're like a trainer and a coach and you teach classes. Like, how do you weave in some of the more like arts and culture and sensory elements just like into your like usual classes?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing my classes for a long time. I've like 8.5 years now. So what I do know, I guess, what is really important to me is that I like to share the experience like a journey. I like to share the experience that is really considered and thought out. Like my music takes me a long time, but what I'll come up with is I'll say, this is the topic of the week or the topic for the next 2 weeks. And I try to almost set an assignment at the beginning, and I say, okay, over the next week or 2 weeks, this is what I'm going to be thinking about. I invite you to do the same. And I ask certain questions, and I open up or set the stage for them to explore those ideas a little bit. But all of the music that comes along with that has little hints in there, little key messaging that will support the overall idea or topic, so that people are like, oh my gosh, that's a hidden little thing that she did, you know? And then later on, I'm like, oh, did somebody catch that? And it just makes it a little bit more thought out and considered. And I think clients really resonate, or building a community is so important for people to feel seen, heard, understood. And, you know, it's not a one size fits all, but I try to add little elements that will, you know, address certain people and what their best responses to motivation are. Everybody's a little bit different, but yeah, I try to kind of go the extra mile when curating these experiences, I guess.
Well, and you also just like I don't know how recently you started like actually DJing as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I started, well, because I'm curating music all the time. Like I'm making playlists like 3 times
constantly,
a week.
Yeah.
Whether that be for my spin classes at One Rebel or my climb classes at BXR. With BXR, where I started 1.5 years ago, we actually have to use the System DJ Pro. So I was changing the RPMs, I'm changing the levels, I'm changing like the bass, everything to create like more of a bespoke experience and making sure that everything falls on the right beat, because that's everything that we do. So once I started to explore that a little bit and play with that, I was like, well, I might as well just learn, because I love music. I do this all the time. I have a lot of friends that are having, you know, parties or events, and I'm connected with certain brands. So I'm like, oh, it'd be such a great way to go and do that. I think after COVID, I was like, let's just do it all. Let's just do all the things that you want to pursue and see what happens. So yeah.
So add a DJ to your resume officially.
Yeah.
That's so. I didn't realize like how like music intensive like being a fitness instructor like could be.
Yeah.
I guess you had a lot of like the foundation that you would need anyways to move into DJing quite easily.
Well, yes, but then it's also at the same time, I'm like, what is my sound? Because I'm just moving from like Taylor Swift to like, I mean, the other day in one of my classes, I don't know who was on my Spotify, but they were playing Slipknot, and somebody was like, really? Like, that's as far as your music like goes? I'm like, no, I swear, Slipknot is where I draw the line. But I do have like an extensive library, I think, from all the different moods and energies, and so I'm still kind of trying to figure that out a little bit, but I think it does give you a really strong foundation for discovering and knowing music.
Yeah, totally. And I think like music can be so transformative in those environments as well. Again, going back to my first Soul Cycle class, which I found to be very spiritual. It was totally like music related.
Yeah.
Because it definitely like shifts your energy, gets you into a certain zone, and like certain songs like resonate with you more. So yeah, I can see how it would be very effective.
Yeah. Well, I think because you can set a scene so easily with me. There's certain songs and genres that exude that sort of ecstatic state or euphoria, right? So you almost don't want to talk over that. You just want to set the stage, and then you want to let that carry people through, and let that people can resonate with that however they want to. They can, you know, it has different meanings for different people, but you know, you just kind of leave it there, and then you say, okay, for the next 5 minutes, we're going to just be climbing. I'm just going to say, turn it up. I'm going to turn the lights down, and I'm going to let you go on this adventure by yourself. And so you can set the scene to a certain point, but then you allow people to then make it their own as well.
Yeah. Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Blue or red pill? What you going to go for?
Yeah. Just one of each. Both.
Yeah.
And I guess with that as well, what you were talking about earlier, there's different kinds of wellness. And I think that's something else that it sounds like you're so mindful of in your sessions that I sometimes find is lacking in the wider wellness world, where it's like just about the physical, and from like it's mostly just about like aesthetics and not actual like physical health.
Right.
How are you seeing that kind of evolve in the wellness space? Do you think it is evolving? Do you still see most of the space being like quite tied to the like vanity side of things?
I mean, there are more spaces that I'm hearing of all the time that are coming up. I think there has been historically a trend of, you know, a certain demographic being able to go to these gyms that are, you know, studio based, that are boutique, that are whatever. And it does have a certain kind of person that goes there. And I think if you don't fit that mold, or if you don't see yourself in those people, walking in can be extremely intimidating. And I find oftentimes there's gyms that don't have the person there waiting to help you, to take you around the gym, to show you the ropes. So I think a lot of people, there is that line where they don't necessarily know how to even start. So I think that definitely needs to change. I think there's certain groups like LGBT groups that don't necessarily have the right support in certain studios and gym spaces. A friend of mine has actually started this amazing group called NDY, so Not Dead Yet, with just really sort of pushing that forward and educating certain gyms on how they can be better in being a little bit more inclusive in those ways. So I think historically it's been a little bit exclusive in those ways, and I think it's been definitely more about what you look like. I mean, I remember walking in gyms with everybody just with basically no clothing on, 8 packs. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. I can imagine if I didn't look like that walking through this gym, like this is the 1% of people. This is not necessarily what it should all be about. So I think, yeah, dropping the veil a little bit and having more spaces that are more open to everyone, and at least that helps get people through the door and experience it and be more comfortable in moving in their own bodies. And I think for me, play at least definitely is that, where I'm never trying to do something too advanced where somebody wouldn't be able to do it, but they feel a sense of liberation and moving their bodies, which, you know, for many is a birthright, and for many is something that their bodies want more of, to feel alive and to feel good and confident in their bodies, and having that strong connection. I find that for me, if I don't move for a while, I'm like, me and my body like don't have a relationship. Like you almost feel a sense of dysphoria almost.
Totally. I think that's something that I've been trying to learn a lot more about over the last little while, is understanding our connection to our own bodies and how often like disconnected we are just because of our like modern like world and society. And, you know, we sit at desks staring at a computer screen every day. We don't listen to when we're hungry, when we have to pee, like
literally
we're just like stuck and stagnant.
Yeah.
And we are like built and made to move, and we have like energetic layers to us as well that also need to move and be shifted too. So yeah, I think the more that we can do to like get to know ourselves and reconnect with ourselves, yeah, the better. And then from my like sustainability background, I see huge opportunities that offers for then us understanding ourselves as like a physical live like beings that are part of nature and are part of a whole ecosystem, which we are like very disconnected to.
100%. I honestly feel like the more we move, the more we are connected to our bodies, the more we understand ourselves. I think for me, when I move, it's what makes me human. It's when I feel literally like I'm a human being and not like,
not a robot.
Not a robot. Yeah, like so I just think it has major powers. I think for people that are neurodivergent as well, it's just such an important integration into what I hope or that you should integrate into your habits a little bit more.
Yeah. And sticking on you, what else are your like wellness, like habits, rituals? What else contributes to ensuring like you are staying like well?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm never somebody who's going to say that, like, I do have some non-negotiables for sure, but my life does like it's in flux a lot of the time, and there's some days where I'm not adhering to the things that I know benefit me, but I like to call it 80-20. and it is an 80-20. I'd say my non-negotiables are 8 hours of sleep. Like, that I am a different human being if I get anything less than 8 hours. I'm not able to function properly whatsoever. And again, this is different for everybody, but sleep just affects everything in my life, my social, my work, my productivity, my focus, everything. So that's definitely a non-negotiable. I remember, or I still do it, but whenever I'm at a social gathering or a party or whatever it might be, I'll be at the bar, like, doing my sleep time to make sure that I'm in bed by the certain time.
Yeah.
And people are like, that
cancel
is
the morning meeting. I have to sleep.
it's the most antisocial thing ever. They're like, can you just, like, let it go for the night? I was like, no, sleep is my best friend. I mean, water, let's just all drink your H2O, you know? And I think for me now, the pace at which my life is operating, I am so busy, and I don't have enough time sometimes to just stop and reflect and put things into perspective. So recently I've tried to do a positivity journal, and it really has helped put things into perspective. I think a lot of us, we'll do something and we'll celebrate it, but then 5 minutes later we'll say,
on to the next.
Yeah, on to the next, but also, oh no, I forgot that one little thing. The whole thing has gone to shit now. Like, could I, and then you kind of, like, I don't know, you don't end up celebrating yourself nearly as much as you should, and you get critical. So I'm trying to move my criticism into curiosity a little bit more, and just trying to be like, okay, that didn't go the way that I wanted it to, but these things I'm sure will come around again, and so how do I want to change it moving forward, and what can I celebrate in myself to give myself a little bit more grace. So I'm trying to do a positivity journal.
Love that.
Which I think helps. 80-20 definitely on the meditation aspect of things. Like, because I get up so early, I'll be on the bus and I'll be like, on the Calm app, like, just like, guide me through this. The Calm app is great. Ups to the Calm app. Do you use it?
No, I used to use it, and now I just, like, do my own meditations.
Okay.
So I use Insight Timer, which is, it's literally just a timer.
Okay.
But instead of the really aggressive, like, Apple timer, you can have it be like a crystal bowl will,
nice.
tell you when your time is up.
I know. With the alarm, I'm like, did that just ruin my calm for the past
Absolutely.
20 minutes? I used to do transcendental meditation, so I've done the course and everything for it. But it's just, it's a tall order. You have to do it 20 minutes twice a day.
Oh,
I'm like, that's monk level.
Yeah. I think you just have to figure out whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Like, some days you might have that ability and time.
Yeah.
And other days you only have, like, the 5-minute,
Yeah.
like, Calm app check-in.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I like the Calm app because it does set every day. It has a bit of an intention. And it's usually really accurate. I'm like, how did you know about this? They're like, FOMO. I'm like, oh, yeah. I've got FOMO right now. So it's nice because it gives it a little bit of direction.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so at Rain, like, part of our mission is to help people live more optimally to how our bodies and minds are designed. So for you, what does optimal living mean? Like, what would an optimal day in your life look like if this was, like, peak India? Like, what would that day be?
Okay. An ideal day would involve me getting at least 30 minutes of activity in. Moving's definitely a non-negotiable for me. It just sets my day up properly. So movement, social in some way. So I would engage in a, like, productive way or in a intentional way with somebody in my life. So I would either have some quality time with them, or I would further our relationship, or I'd check in with a family member. That would be important to me. I would feed my brain with something that is new knowledge. So whether that be a podcast or a book or poetry, something that I'm learning a little bit more. So I'm advancing myself. Definitely music would have to be in there. So listen to new music, reflect and put something good in my body. Oh my gosh, there's more optimal. There's so many. And then I would want to see foliage. So I'd want to see some sort of nature. That's what I would say.
Those are all very good ingredients.
Yeah.
But that also just made me think of like an optimal day will look so different depending on so many different variables, like the time of year, like where you're at in your cycle, like how you're feeling emotionally.
Totally.
Like, yeah, so optimal living is such a thing that's in flux and like almost undefinable for us as humans who, we change and evolve all the time because we are not robots.
Yeah, exactly. So even if I were to look outside and I'm not like forest bathing, but at least if I see a leaf, like check.
It's a good day if you see a leaf. I love that. That's like a good baseline.
Literally. So that example can exist with any of those. So it's like if I call my mom and I'm just listening to her rant, like at least we've connected. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. That sounds good. And if people want to hear and learn more about you and about play, if they want to like sign up for events, where can they find you?
So you can find me at Go Play Collective on Instagram. Our website is coming very soon, so that will be playcollective.co.uk, I believe. And then my Instagram is India_Bailey, so you can kind of see our events on either one of those link trees. We're on Eventbrite for ticket. So
yeah, go check them out. Any other final thoughts or words of wisdom that you want to share?
Oh, gosh. Words of wisdom. I think every day, I like to think of every day as being a brand new page. And I think putting yourself into uncomfortable positions that are safe, of course, but that are going to get you a little closer to where you'd ideally like to be. I think with movement, if that's something that maybe you're shying away from or something that you'd want to get back into, maybe you've fallen off the wagon, it's happened to all of us. I think it's really important to just give yourself grace, try things out. But if you are heading into the fitness industry to, I don't know, lose weight or gain muscle or whatever it might be, finding something that you love, that's going to be a byproduct of that. And I think taking your time to explore is just part of the process and actually quite an enjoyable one if you just be patient with it. And I know patience is something that we all potentially lack these days. Whoever does has patience, like reach out to me and let me know how you do it. But it is a resource that I think a lot of us are not heavy on right now. But yeah, I think just enjoy the process. Find people in that industry once you've found something that you love, an activity that you love. Find somebody in that industry that is maybe a thought leader or pioneer in that space and just have a conversation with them and see what their experience has been like and connect with people. If you're struggling to get in the gym, find somebody that can be a buddy. I think that always helps. And like I say, discomfort is your dream's currency. So just stepping into that a little bit more and figuring out what you're willing to pay to get a little closer to your dreams. And that oftentimes does involve a little discomfort. So, yeah.
That was a good word of wisdom. Well, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting with me today. I learned a lot and feel very encouraged to not take my wellness and fitness so seriously, but just go out and play.
Go play, babes. Go play. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, India. Thanks for listening to the Restorative Force podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review and share it with a friend. You can follow us at Rain Wellbeing on Instagram and at TikTok. Thanks so much and see you next time.